Thank you, and good evening. So both of us consider ourselves to be global citizens, citizens of the world doing our part to make a positive difference in society and for humanity.
So the notion of a global or world citizen is nothing new and can be traced back to the Greek Stoics and their Roman successors. In the late 1700s, it was French revolutionist Jean-Baptiste who imagined a world where all people would have cultural autonomy, that is, choosing our own culture irrespective of our national identities.
3 years later, it was German philosopher Immanuel Kant who urged that world citizenship and freedom of movement would ultimately make national conflict obsolete.
And while the internet and globalization have allowed us to be more connected than ever before, we've become more disconnected to ourselves, our actions, and the world around us.
Today's world remains full of social issues, stemming from a lack of cultural understanding and respect for our cultural differences. Currently, there are 50 million refugees and asylum seekers around the world, and a myriad of cultural conflicts on a global scale.
We believe this is testament to the need for global citizenship to return to the limelight, and for all of us to renew our commitment to its cause.
We are all members of the human species and dwellers of this planet that we share. As such, each and every one of us has a role to play in driving this global agenda towards positive change.
We believe the future belongs to those who can adapt and become active global citizens by harnessing cultural competence and global-mindedness.
Being a global citizen is not your passport or your ancestry, but it is a mindset. It is a way of seeing and understanding the world, a way of connecting people, ideas, and actions. It is an attitude and way of thinking that can be developed with practice and experience.
So what could the future look like? Imagine a world where people not only identified but acted as a citizen of the world versus a citizen of any one nation or place.
A world where more leaders take responsibility for their own actions and prioritize global interest versus political agenda. The impact of this would be felt far beyond our immediate spheres in order to realize a better world.
Growing up in multicultural families, we both experienced situations where cultural differences created separation and conflict. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, to a Taiwanese mother and an Ethiopian father. As immigrants to the US, my parents faced the dual challenge of assimilating to a new culture while trying to retain their own cultural identities and values. So from a young age, I understood the reality of culture clash. But I also witnessed the achievability of cultural integration over time with mutual tolerance, acceptance, and respect.
We've also seen cultural diversity at its best, where similarities have created greater opportunities for understanding and appreciation of each other. So, I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, to an Indonesian Dutch mother and an Australian father who had lived and worked for the majority of his life in Asia. Over this time, he embodied much of the Asian values and uncovered similarities within the cultures to build bridges rather than barriers in his relationships across the region.
Living amongst worlds and without a single dominant culture, we became cultural chameleons, adapting to and blending with the various cultures in our home and external environments.
I grew up in various countries from Indonesia, Singapore, South America, and Australia. Moving across these countries required me to weave in and out of different cultural contexts, but being exposed to the multiple cultures with their diverse values, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations enabled me to have a three-dimensional worldview. I learned to have an appreciation for diversity, to be adaptable, and to keep an open mind. All of these experiences provided me with the ability to span cultural divides and thrive in this ever-changing world.
In my household, dinner was either Chinese, eaten with chopsticks, or Ethiopian, eaten with our hands. I was only allowed American junk food on Halloween or Christmas. But we also celebrated Chinese New Year, Moon Festival, and Ethiopian Easter. And at age 13, I gained a Lebanese stepmother who brought yet another dimension to our cultural mix. Today, my family also comprises my Lebanese Ethiopian sister, my full-breed Ethiopian brother, and now my Indian husband. Infusing all of these cultures as part of my own identity has not only enriched my life, but allows me to feel a sense of belonging to the world at large.
There were definitely moments where we struggled to identify with any one culture because we are a melting pot of cultures, and at times we definitely felt displaced or abnormal.
But over time, we learned to embrace the cultural richness of our families and experiences and created more meaningful connections that transcended cultural boundaries.
Although each one of us is born as a citizen of the world, many of us have been brought up to identify as a citizen of the nation that we are born in and as part of the culture that we are most similar to.
And this not only creates more separation, but silos us into categories and labels that seldom reveal the full picture of who we are and where we come from.
And while globalization has given rise to more and more people living outside of their home country,
244 million to be exact, which is about 50 times the population of New Zealand, or just under that of Indonesia.
we believe people should be doing much more to hone in their global citizen skills, such as intercultural fluency, empathy, curiosity, and some of the others that we've listed here behind us.
So how does one go about realizing their true potential as a global citizen? Well, from our own experiences, we've seen that curiosity, continuous learning, and practice are the key enablers. And while growing up in multicultural homes and living in different parts of the world made it easier for us to adopt a global mindset, this is by no means a prerequisite. We know some of you may be thinking, what if I'm not multicultural? What if I haven't lived all over the world? Well, as we've said before, we believe global citizenship is a mindset. And as we'll share in the rest of this talk, there are ways for anybody to develop that mindset.
Since 2014, we've been researching this topic further through a series of interviews with individuals who identify as global citizens or who are multiculturals like ourselves. We believe each one of us has a choice to embrace and act on this identity, regardless of your upbringing, circumstances, or experiences.
We asked 70 individuals from different parts of the world, whom we call humans of change, to share their journeys of stepping up to global citizenship.
We wanted to find a common thread to see what the ingredients were for becoming a global citizen, and here's what we found.
All of their journeys started with curiosity, a question or interest about another culture, way of life, or way of thinking.
And all of them sought and reflected on new experiences in order to gain a better understanding of the world.
All of them endeavored to discover and live their values through self-exploration and actualization.
And all of them are finding ways to apply their knowledge and experience to address social issues.
So as you can see, becoming a global citizen is a journey of constant and conscious adaptation of the way we see, understand, and interact with the world. From our findings and our personal experiences, we've identified a pattern of evolving consciousness, which we believe helps to develop a global mindset.
And the first stage is awareness. We build awareness through careful listening and observation in order to see ourselves and others around us more clearly, with appreciation for its beauty and its flaws.
One of the great things about our school in Singapore growing up was its emphasis on having students from different backgrounds together so that we could build awareness of different cultures, religions, and ethnicities. One example was United Nations Night, an annual evening of student potlucks and performances to showcase their unique cultural backgrounds.
But awareness isn't enough. To move beyond the surface of what we observe, we must cultivate understanding, our second stage of consciousness.
Understanding goes beyond awareness by seeking to ask questions and draw meaningful insights from our observations. It hones the human capacity for empathy and our ability to see the world through another lens.
For me, my journey to understanding started at a young age of 11 when my parents moved us to South America and threw me into a Spanish-speaking school. Initially, I had to figure out very creative ways of communicating with my peers. But quickly, I realized in order to develop stronger relationships and deeper understanding of the local community and my classmates, I had to speak the language.
For me, understanding also came with immersion. My younger years in the US had established my cultural foundations, but growing up in Asia and learning local languages allowed me to appreciate my Asian roots. And on more than one or several occasions, this has also allowed me to verify that I am, in fact, half Chinese.
These are just some examples of how we can establish common ground and have affinity with cultures different from our own.
When we open ourselves to learning about cultures on a deeper level, we can then move into the third stage of consciousness, sensitivity.
Sensitivity can be developed by practicing empathy, the ability for us to put ourselves in another person's shoes and see the world through their eyes.
Sensitivity lends mindfulness to our words, actions, and behaviors so that we can prevent misunderstandings or diffuse negative reactions in new situations.
Coming back to Asia 8 years ago, we realized our unique opportunity to act as bridges across different groups of people. We were seen as neither local nor expat, but we embodied and resonated with parts of both identities.
And this has proven to be advantageous for our work. Living in Singapore, being sensitive to different cultures has allowed us to be adaptable when working with people of diverse backgrounds.
So, this brings us to our final stage of consciousness, intelligence. In a cultural context, this speaks to the ability to work and relate effectively across different cultural contexts, adapting our actions and interactions based on building awareness, understanding, and sensitivity.
When we apply these stages of consciousness and practice cultural competence, we become better equipped to navigate through the world with cultural fluency and a truly global mindset.
We believe cultural competency is the key tool for stepping up to global citizenship because it allows us to recognize the interconnectedness of ourselves with the world.
As Marcus Aurelius once said, one should continually think of the universe as one living being, with one substance and one soul. How all its actions derive from one impulse, how all things together cause all that happens, and the nature of the resulting web and pattern of events.
It is only when we realize this can we become more active global citizens.
And so tonight, we invite all of you
to step up to global citizenship. Thank you.